Okie dokie. I'm conflicted over this show. There's a type of storytelling that I really struggle to enjoy, and it's when they place a lot of their emotional delivery on character deaths. I think the show has a lot of value. I just have a personal bias against the way this show is written, and I want to try and explain my feelings with this video. I'll keep spoilers to a minimum, but I will be going through a bit of the events in the plot, so be warned if you care about going into a show completely blind. Our main character is an orb that is plopped onto our Earth. Riveting, I know, but it's a bit more than it seems. With enough stimulation, this orb is able to copy its environment. It first lands on a rock and takes its form. It sits there for a while, gathering moss. No cognitive thought as rocks don't have brains. A wounded wolf happens to collapse near it and succumbs to its injury. The rock senses the loss of life and becomes a wolf. With vague memories and instinct, it learns how to walk and returns to a wolf's home, a dilapidated village with a population of 1. A lonely boy greets him, feeds him, tells him how the rest of the village ventured out in a search of paradise. He hasn't heard back from them, no one has returned with any news, so he sets out to find paradise himself, along with his past neighbors. More stimulation for our little orb. This is the story of how this orb is molded by the passage of time. It starts to meet more people, and begins to slowly learn more about itself and the humans it meets. It's kind of beautiful watching this orb slowly develop. It starts to have its own thoughts, gains the title of Fushi, discovers its own emotions and morals, along with some interesting abilities as well. It's similar to watching a child grow up, from holding them in your hands to watching them walk out of your home looking for independence. Each character they meet becomes part of it, a new pair of shoes for Fushi to turn into, much like how we are forever changing in reaction to our day-to-day lives. Fushi is able to create objects with ease. They're not that complicated, his body just needs to interact with them, most of the time through being stabbed or just simply scratched. Living beings, however, aren't as easy. More stimulation is needed for Fushi to be able to transform into them. So what will be the best way to create this stimulation? If you think back to the first living form, Fushi was able to sense the pain of a wolf dying next to him, using this new feeling to copy the animal. When it comes to stimulation, what better source is there than the fading of one's life? So, Fushi meets someone. They learn of this person's desires, and follows them as they try to achieve them. Unfortunately, they are caught in an accident, and unable to recover, they perish like the wolf. Fushi gains some more stimulation. It's tragic. You knew it was coming. The nature of the show was obvious if you had any sort of knowledge of it before starting, but it's still pretty sad to watch someone die right in front of you. Fushi continues on and meets another person. They have a dream they wish to achieve, but their environment cruelly robs them from the chance to obtain that dream. In an attempt to release themselves from the shackles, they are struck down the struggle. Fushi gains some more stimulation. This feeling I currently have is kind of dull. I'm still disheartened, but it's not the same as before. Fushi meets someone new. They have a pretty eye-catching character design, and a surprisingly dangerous ability. I see. Wouldn't they be an interesting addition to Fushi's collection? If you haven't noticed, I've started to view these people as new forms of character development for Fushi, and another plot device to try and pull on my heartstrings. I very much dislike it when shows like Your Lie in April and World End place so much of its worth into trying to manipulate my emotions using character deaths. It's an incredibly lazy attempt at inciting a reaction from the audience, and quite often builds characters in a way where it's obvious they're trying to force me to care about them before they are eventually thrown into the gallows. To Your Eternity, however, gets close to being an exception to the rule. The writing for these characters are done really well that I actually end up caring for them quite a bit. However, it's still very easy to play a game of I spy with my little eye something that will soon pass away. I can't help but have this in the back of my mind as I watch this show, always waiting for Fushi to obtain another piece to add to themselves. Of course, Fushi doesn't wish for this to happen. Stimulation means becoming close with these people and forming bonds. The last thing it wants is to lose them. But unfortunately, this show is not a chill slice of life Iyashikei. There are threats in the forms of humans and supernatural beings that wish to use Fushi for their own selfish means, often resulting in more stimulation. With that said, the final arc is probably the one I enjoyed the most. It has the most heartbreaking backstory out of all the characters we meet. It plays around with its own format, and really shows the ingenuity Fushi's enemies need, as they are up against an immortal being capable of spawning infinite resources. I do think that the developments got a bit cliche, and that the characters gave up far too quickly once caught by the enemies. You'll understand once you get to the final arc. But I enjoyed how refreshing this was compared to the rest of the series. The last episode is oh so incredibly powerful. I won't go into it too much, but I'll simply say, even with the personal bias I have against shows like this, I would still recommend this show to everyone. I'm probably in the minority with this opinion, and I just wanted to explain my own feelings about this show. Anything that can elicit a tear from me is a show that is worth experiencing. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video or want to see more from me, leave a comment below. Do all the usual YouTube things, and I hope you have a good day.